Hi everyone, it's Karen Tamir here, and today I have a brand new tutorial for you where I altered a mixed media art journal chipboard cover using lots of products from Prima Marketing Finnabair available at Michael's. This is an art journal, and all I'm doing is altering the cover. I took the cover out of the coiled hinges so it's easier to work on both sides. It's quite easy to remove both the front and the back from the coils, and then they can lay flat so you can apply all the mediums. This mixed media cover is made out of chipboard and it's quite heavy, so it can take a lot of the heavy mediums. It has a button that you can close with an elastic strap, and all I did is I took some masking tape and just covered the elastic strap so it doesn't get ruined by any mediums. I laid the journal flat on the table with the two ends meeting each other, and then I took a pack of geometrical shaped chipboard pieces and started adding them to the front and back of the covers. I just made sure that they would fit in a pattern to create some texture, but I didn't want to cover the whole book. I wanted to create a pattern and texture, but also leave some spaces open. I also figured that I might not have enough to cover the whole book, so it was okay to just cover some parts of the book. And all I did is just place them and created a geometrical pattern on both sides of the cover. I had to cut some of the pieces in half so they could fit at the edge of the pattern. I wanted to make sure that the pattern looks continuous on all sides of the journal. I ended up using the whole chipboard pack and cut the last few pieces to fit at the edges of my covers. Once I placed the chipboard where I liked it, I was ready to glue it, and I used some 3D gloss gel that comes in the Art Basic kit, and using a palette knife just applied it to each chipboard. I went to each chipboard individually and made sure that they line up with the rest of them so the pattern stays the same. As you can see, I did not fill the whole cover. I just put it in some areas to just give it texture, and most of the corners stayed without any chipboard. Once all the pieces were glued, I just used a small paintbrush and cleaned all the excess glue that stuck out from underneath each of the chipboard pieces. This is a great technique to use in order to remove any excess glue that just stays underneath. Then I took black gesso from the Art Basic kit and using a paintbrush covered both the front and the back of my journal with black gesso. I just covered the whole thing and painted all over it to prime it and to have a base for the metallic paints. The reason why I'm covering the journal with black gesso before adding the embellishments is because I want to make sure that I am able to cover the whole background with black gesso. If I put the embellishments first, which I've done before in other projects, it's sometimes really hard to apply the gesso in between the nooks and crannies in between the embellishments. So it's much easier to have the layer of gesso in the background and then glue anything on top of it. Anyways, I know that I will put the black gesso on the embellishments as well, but I want to make sure that it doesn't interfere, it doesn't leave any blank space. I heat set the black gesso really well, and then I started adding the embellishments. I added some burlap as texture in the background and frayed it really well so I could add it as the base to all my embellishments. I also took a cardboard lid in the shape of a heart that I had bought, and I just used the lid of it as the focal point of my composition. Then I took some mechanicals and some resins from Prima Marketing Finnabair available at Michael's and started embellishing around the heart. I put some of the gears inside the actual heart and some of them to embellish underneath and on the sides. I really wanted to create a mechanical looking heart. So these were the perfect mechanical pieces to do that. I also added some nuts and bolts from my stash because I really wanted it to look very mechanical. Finally, I added some mechanical hearts. These are also from the Prima Finnabair line, and they added a perfect soft touch. And the last thing I did is added two little MDF words because I wanted to have a sentiment on the background. Then I took all the pieces and using the 3D gel, I glued them to the background. I am not showing this step in this video because all I did is just glue everything together. Sometimes to help me make sure that I don't move the embellishments, I take a picture with my phone and then I'm able to place the embellishments exactly in the same place. Once all the embellishments were glued, and I did let this dry for a little while just to make sure that they're not moving, I went ahead and covered all the embellishments with black gesso. And this is what I meant before, that I could have glued the embellishments right on the journal. However, I really wanted to make sure that the background is black as well. So it was easier to glue the embellishments after. That way, when you color around them, the black gesso covers everything. I heat set the gesso really well because now it was time to add the paints, and I wanted to make sure the surface is thoroughly dry. I took one of the sets from the Metallic Paints. This is the Opal Magic Mermaid set, and it comes with 3 different colors. It comes with the Coral Cercita, which is a pinkish coral color. It comes with the violet gold and the violet green. The nice thing about the Opal Magic paints is that when you paint with them, they react differently depending on the background. So for example, the coral one at the top will look coral in color when you add it to a white background or white gesso. But since I'm adding it here to black gesso, it actually becomes blue. So it's really nice because you can get different effects with the Opal Magic paints. I love how the Opal Magics also interact with each other and you can blend them really nicely. The nice thing about the metallic paints is that they're highly metallic and very shimmery, so they look beautiful when you add them on top of black gesso. All I did here is take the coral color and mix it with the violet green color to cover the background with those 2 colors and blend them. So the background would be a little bit of a bluish greenish tone combined with the purple from the violet green Opal Magic color. In the violet green example, which is the one at the bottom, the green comes up when you use a white background, but it becomes a violet color when you apply it to a black background like I'm doing right now. I continued blending all the colors until I covered the whole background. The technique I used here is a dry brush technique where I make sure that I don't have a lot of paint on my paintbrush. That way I can only create a light stroke on top of the embellishments, but the black gesso stays intact underneath and I can see those shadows. So that's what I did with the background itself. Then I took the violet gold color, which has a golden color when applied onto these embellishments, and I used the same technique of a light dry brush to be able to bring out those beautiful highlights from the embellishments. This really brought life into the project. I started applying it on all the small embellishments and it started highlighting all the beautiful textures of each one of the embellishments and separated them from the background, which was a different color and a little bit darker. So it really helped to bring some light to this project. Although I hadn't added any embellishments to the back cover of the art journal, I still needed to cover it with the same colors. So all I did is apply that dry brush technique to the background as well, using the first 2 colors I had used before, and then adding highlights with the gold. This was easy to do as there was only one texture on the background, which I had created with the chipboard. So it brought out that really nice geometrical pattern to the surface when I applied the beautiful metallic colors. And all I did is cover the whole background and then added some highlights with the violet gold Opal Magic paint. I love how this technique is so magical because it really changes the color depending on the background, and that's really fun to see. Finally, when everything was thoroughly dried, I took a Prima Marketing Finnabair Metallic Wax in the rich copper color and just added it using my finger. All I did is created some rich copper highlights in some of the embellishments to kind of tie it all in together and create a vintage feel. I also added it to the edges of the journal to create a border around the cover. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the process with the Opal Magic paints. I really find this medium really magical to use, and it's a great fun idea to altering any type of project. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye!